Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Force for Growth Show. I'm Ricardo,
And I'm Courtney.
and we're so lucky to be here. We're happy that we
Yes.
joined you. We're a little bit later than we usually are, but that's going to flow right into the today's topic:
Yes.
being consistent. Does it
Yes.
matter that we're late? No.
No, because sometimes you need to give up perfection to get it done. And
Correct.
here we are.
Here we are. Better late than never.
Yeah.
It's about being consistent. We made a commitment to be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we're here.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're getting it done. We're keeping up with our commitments, even though it's later. So we could have easily made up excuses to put this off and not be here today, but we decided not to, and even more so, decided to make it into a lesson. So,
Yes.
Courtney, tell me about being consistent.
Yes. Okay. Well, the cliche, consistency is key. I don't even know who said that to like reference who quoted it, but we have been told probably thousands of times by the time you're 30 that consistency is key. But we often are still struggling with that, right? So I think the statistics, I'm a sales girl, so I'm going to take it there. The the statistic is most people give up by like the third or fourth attempt and stop attempting the client or asking or following up, whereas most people buy the fifth to seventh attempt. And so if you just stick with it, give a few more contacts, that is the difference between the top producers and the not, is typically in the follow-up. And so applying that to yourself, then it's working out. Am I consistent? Is it eating right? Am I consistent? It's all this stuff that weighs our head down. And I sent Ricardo a text this morning. I had to push it back. That was on me. And I asked him, but I struggled before I sent it. And I was like, we're talking about consistency today. We don't plan our shows, but we pick a word or a topic and just wing it. And so I was like, I'm about to send a text and say, hey, let's push it back while we're talking about being consistently there 9 a.m. So, but then it was back to that's an expectation we put on ourselves and just be honest in the moment. And hey, can we push it back? And so up until now, it just that's the lesson I've been marinating on is what do you need to give up to get it done on the days you aren't going to get it done perfect? Life happens. It's going to keep happening. Surprise. Like, let's go ahead and get that out of the way so we're not shocked in the moment. And what do you need to alter or rearrange or, to get it done? This is important to you. You set a goal. Be consistent.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think what you said is totally true with everything, though. I mean, during the COVID pandemic, how many podcasts went up? How many people started doing live videos like we did, and they stopped, right? Because I think part of being consistent has to do with we also have this microwave mentality that we want it now. We think like, oh yeah, we got 2,000 friends on Facebook, so if I start going live, that means I'm going to get 2,000 views immediately, and then people get 5 or 10 or 20 or 100 or whatever it is, and then they focus on that number, and they focus on that number, and they focus at that on that number.
And they miss those maybe 5 people that you really inspired or helped or resonated with, or, your tribe you're attracting. And what if they tell 5 people and then they tell 5 people and they tell 5 people and you have organic reach versus over there boohooing in the corner because you didn't get another 2,000 views. Like, oh, poor
Correct.
you.
Poor you. We don't get 2,000 views. We don't see us
I'm over
cry.
it.
Like,
Like,
we don't
yeah.
care. We don't
Yeah.
care.
It's
We have
just not a number. You're not in this for a number, right? Like,
correct.
that's not where it all starts with any goal. So why are you giving the power to a number? You know?
And I think
Like,
that's what social media has come down to. We give power to the number. Why? Because we compare ourselves to someone like Gary Vee or Grant Cardone or Tony Robbins or whoever it is that'll get 10,000 views in 3 minutes.
yeah. Which right there, Gary Vee started his YouTube show, was that 99 maybe, but he was actively working on it or at the liquor store since 96 on Wine Library. Tony Robbins has been doing this since the 70s. So, if you're expecting your 5-year plan to have 20,000 arenas sold out like Tony does,
Mm.
definitely shoot for it, go for it. We encourage you, but don't get caught up on the number because chances are in 5 years you're not going to be selling at arenas yet.
Correct.
Still
And that's
possible.
the key with all these people is being consistent. That's the key. You keep going. You keep going. You get one video view, you get one like. Okay, cool. Continue to be consistent and put out good content. And while doing so, improving your craft.
Yes. I'm glad you brought up improving because our favorite word, polish. You also don't want the masses to see your first bits of content. Like, you don't want that. Like, working on a work project, I filmed it 3 times and it's still we're not going to edit those. I'm going to do it again. But like it was great practice, so I'll call it what it is. But like this TV
Practice.
show is a great example, like compared to now. So it's the formula is like that for a reason where not a lot of people are going to see you when you're stumbling on your words and when you're falling on your face. But when you're composed and when you are calm and are able to resonate with your message, it's your live, then you want people to see. So be careful not looking at it that way because then you miss the good and then you don't have much to build on. So
Right. So, what are some keys on being consistent? I get that it's so simple that really the number one key of being consistent is actually being consistent. And that's almost an oxymoron, but
yeah.
really it's one of the things that frustrates me with self-development is that a lot of people act like it's a blanket statement, that whatever that we talk about or that a speaker or a book or a seminar talks about, that it's a blanket fix for everyone. While as powerful as anything in self-development may be, in a lot of cases it's not generic. They have to make it generic to reach mass appeal. However, a lot of things need to be addressed on a case by case basis. So, with that said, Courtney, for you personally, what do you have to do to be consistent?
I need to follow what I know works. I know I'm taking the general answer to this versus the detailed, but there are things I do, it works, and I stop doing. Why? Because I'm lazy. Like, let's call it what it is. Like, I'm not going to candy coat this at all. Like, it's happens. We're human. We're not perfect. We feel emotions. So just give up perfection. Okay. Perfection is the greatest excuse for procrastination in the history of all time. It really
Correct.
is. It's you put it off because you want to do it this great way. So you still feel like you're working on it. You still feel like you're doing something when actually you're being incredibly inconsistent because you had this idea a year ago and you haven't raised one finger because fill in the blank. It's not perfect yet. Is it ever going to be perfect? No, it's like the people who want to have kids, but they wait until they make enough money. Like, do you ever make enough money? Is there's just certain cliches in life, but if you anticipate that and use that to your advantage, I mean, consistency is, I'm in sales. So consistency is just saying, hey, hope you have a great day. Let me know if you have any questions. That's all. I mean, just, you don't need to overthink it. We're overthinking it and like, oh, I need to put this, all this content and this message. So they do this. Da, 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 da. Truth is, 90% of your content is running them off. They open that and they see so much wording and they're like, oof, I don't have time for that. That's overwhelming to even start to read. Or, there's just a lot of ways that you might be hurting your consistency that you might not realize. So just, it's okay. Take a deep breath and just take inventory of what does and does not work. Ricardo always says it's just feedback.
It's
It's
all
not
just
negative or
feedback.
positive. It's just feedback. You are the one who's picking to tie strings to it and to, sit on it and live on that and, build a house there. Like that's your choice. So that I don't want to sound so brutal today, but just, yeah, we had a heavy like coaching session before this. So it's not anything to judge. It's just something to take inventory of and move on.
Self-awareness, guys.
Greatest
Self-awareness.
superpower.
Ooh, yes. Self-awareness is the greatest superpower. Without self awareness, it doesn't work. None of this stuff that we talk about or that you hear about works without self awareness.
Yeah. And I do want to mention, because Ricardo brought up going or personal development in general. So a lot of people have a cliche that they either fall off the wagon, or this, because they don't go to the next event, or they don't go consistently to events, or it costs money. So where you were gung-ho about the plan 6 months ago, now it's you're reevaluating your budget or something. But I think, know that any program you go to or you purchase, you're probably not going to resonate with 100% of it. Whereas likewise, don't necessarily judge any other program or event, because chances are if you sat through it, you get something from it too, even if it was only 1%. But the key is to be consistent and be an eternal learner. Like, keep growing, keep polishing, keep at it. Even if it's not perfect, even if you can't make it to this like grand event, okay. Can you read the guy's book again? Is it on
Yep.
Audible? Can you try it in a different modality than you originally got the content? Like, if you got the content at a seminar and they have a book, or vice versa, just there's options. So that is what I think trips us up on being consistent as humans. So I also think that's the key to
Self
self-awareness.
awareness on your expectations.
Mm,
Self awareness on the expectations. The expectations of whatever it is that you're trying to be consistent with. If you're trying to be consistent with your growth, have the self awareness of what works for you and what doesn't work. And understand that just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. And that everything in that book, seminar, or whatever it is will not work for you.
yeah.
And that's okay. Be self aware of your expectations.
And expectations on other people, or what you
Mhm.
assume of other people. Because, Kyle C says in many of his programs, but they didn't break your heart, they broke your expectations. Know the
Mm.
difference. But if you apply that to more than just relationships, you start to see that it's just a lot of confused expectations of people applying. They assume you're just like them, or they assume you think of it like them or understand it like them. And that's just not reality.
Yep. Expectations extinguish progress.
That's good.
And I need to write that down.
Yeah.
Like that was pretty good.
Yeah. That is
That, that
really good.
that was
And
actually really good.
another thing that came up this morning is talking about, like, know that initially, maybe going into a business deal or something, like, if you don't set up the expectations, they will assume their expectations, and chances are they don't match. So there's a lot of power in just saying, hey, like, here's when I'll be able to complete this, here's what more, you just laying out the expectations right at the beginning. So whether that's with your self talk, or other people, or what you expect of them, just lay it out and
It starts with
kind of,
that self talk, Courtney. It
yeah.
starts with that self talk. Because the minute that you're trying to do something and you have that expectation of how it was supposed to be, that self talk kicks in.
Yeah. Which
And
everything's 2020 in hindsight, right? Is
and
that the
I
saying?
hate, yep, and I hate
So
to say it, but
why worry now?
the majority of the time when the self talk starts to creep in, it's not positive.
Correct.
Not in every single case, but the majority of the time, unless you exercise that muscle. So let's see here, real quick. Thank you for joining, Kendall Mason. Perfection is the greatest excuse for procrastination.
Yes.
I love that. I
Yes.
love
That's
that.
one of my favorite phrases of the entire universe.
Yeah.
Because I used to be a perfectionist procrastinator, and I'm not anymore. I had to slow down and think about it as I said that. That's a tongue twister.
So comment down below. Let us know. Join the conversation. What are your thoughts on being consistent? Are you as consistent as you should be? My bet is no. We're always a little bit harder on ourselves than someone else will be. So my suggestion to that is give yourself some grace. You're doing the best. One of the things that I truly believe in is that we're doing the best that we can with the resources that are available to us in that moment. You're most likely doing the best that you can. Could you be doing better? Of course, we could always be doing better, but give yourself some grace and try not to beat yourself up, because when you beat yourself up, that self talk starts to creep in.
Yeah, you make things happen when you get negative self-talk. So don't do that. Meaning you train your brain to react negatively. So when something happens tomorrow because you marinated in negative self-talk for a few hours yesterday, you're just more conditioned to think that way. And so that's where it trips you up in the non-woo-woo way for Ricardo. Instead of putting it, I would say you manifest bad stuff when you stay there. Like
You
that's
would. So,
the
real
Courtney
quick,
way.
Courtney. So, we're
Yes.
talking about perfectionism. We're talking about being consistent. Acknowledge that noise in the background.
Okay, so yes, that is
We all
my.
hear it.
So I have a 9-year-old male Bengal cat named Harrison. He's my leopard, and he has a cone on, and he has a few health issues. So he lives in his comfy cones, and I went over to put him up earlier, but he was eating, and he was so sweet. I couldn't move him before the live, so I'm sorry, guys. But Harrison says hello.
We hear him in the background. I like how we're just kind of chugging on that. People are like, what is that in the background? Like, we hear that, but it's okay. That's just Harrison.
Yeah,
And that's okay. But you know what? Our lives are not usually perfect. They never will be. And we don't plan on them ever being perfect. We plan on improving, but perfection is not something that we strive for. We strive for being consistent.
yeah. And I wanted to reframe. So, what are you possibly being consistent on that you shouldn't be? What
Ooh.
behaviors or self talk are you on autopilot on that have you in a downward spiral? Where's my camera? Downward spiral versus up. Momentum is negative and positive. It happens both ways. So, what are you giving energy to daily that you shouldn't be? What are you doing often that is draining you versus things that lift you up? So, just a question to once again not judge yourself because that feeds the negative side. No judgment. You did it. You meant well. So, just like he said, grace, grace.
You
So,
did.
just take inventory and think of it very technical so you don't attach to it. Like, don't attach emotion. Just, okay, there's a thought. Okay, here's what I need to do with it, or here's what I need to repeat instead, or acknowledge instead. So it's a big question. So, what are you being consistent on that you shouldn't be, Ricardo?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm pretty
Yes.
consistent of, oh man, there's so many. I need to pick a good one though. I'm pretty consistent of having these moments where I don't feel like doing anything. Keyword moments. It's a moment in time that I don't feel like doing anything. I could have so easily, if you would have said, Courtney, if you would have said, hey, let's skip today, I would have been like, oh, but okay. But then there would have been something that would have nagged both of us and been like, nah, we can't skip. Even if we do it later, we got to do it. Right? Even if we do it later, we still got to do it because we've been so consistent lately and we're on a roll. And we also know that the minute that you stop doing it is the minute that it spirals down. But with that said, if you're consistently performing a habit that you don't want to perform, the minute that you break it, it also starts to spiral down in a good way. And you want those bad habits to start spiraling down in a good way.
Exactly.
So it
Yes.
works both ways. It works both ways. If you're doing something that you love to do, if you're doing something that you're being consistent in and you break it and don't do it, that's the start of the downward spiral. If you're doing something that you don't want to do, something that is negative in your life, and you break that pattern and you stop it for at least one day, one time, that's also the start of a positive pattern.
Correct.
But the key is to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Be consistent at doing the positive stuff and be consistent of not doing the negative stuff.
Correct. Yeah. Man, weeds grow automatically. Don't need to do anything. So just know that, yeah. And then give up perfection. So
And
analyze consistency, negative, positively in the way you're doing it, and then just give up perfection.
one thing just came to me.
I like Ricardo with note cards, by the way. Can I
You do
just tell
like
the world? I really like Ricardo with the camera and note cards because he's just like, I'm ready.
okay, so hold on. Let me do it better.
Ah, I see. I think I.
So see, here we go. This is positive, right? This is negative. This is a positive habit that's taken you in the direction that you want to go in. This is a negative habit that's taken you in the direction that you don't want to go in. If you simply stop a negative habit without implementing a positive habit, you're at zero. You're at neutral. Without even implementing a positive habit, you're at a neutral zone. I prefer you to be at a neutral zone than being at a negative zone. Once you get to a neutral zone, you can decide to create a new positive habit. But if you can't get to that positive side, stay at that zero. It's okay. As long as you're not doing this, it's okay that you don't do this if you're at a neutral place. Would I
Mhm.
prefer you to go to replace a negative habit with a positive habit immediately? Of course I would. That is the ideal circumstance. But in some cases, you can't do that. In some cases, you can't replace that negative with an immediate positive. And what happens is the majority of us beat ourselves up because we can't. We fail to acknowledge the fact that we broke that negative habit. We fail to acknowledge the fact that we're not doing this negative thing anymore,
Which that is a positive. So
which
I
it
would
is a
say that
positive.
puts you at 0.001 or
Point.
point 0.1.
Oh, that's good. Point
So it
oh oh
puts you a
one.
little bit on the positive side. So that's a if you can just stand there and be aware you're there and don't go back to the negative side, that's a positive.
Correct. But
Until
even
that's a habit and then yeah, baby steps.
yes, even like Sharon Allison says right here, even just reframing a negative to a neutral is a win. Yes. And
Yes.
that's where we're
Thank you.
saying is reframe it to a neutral. Get to a neutral. Sometimes it's a big jump to get from here all the way to here. Sometimes it's just too big, and it's too big for us to process that gap. It's called cognitive dissonance, where you are to where you want to be and the gap in between.
Yes. And something that, thank you for all of that on the card, because that just reminded me. It's kind of like when you ask at our meetings, or you've asked us a lot on the morning calls, what are you at on just 1 to 10, whatever that means for you, where are you at on your goal? And then we give you a number. And so let's say I'm like 4. I'm not halfway there. I'm making progress, whatever. And your next question, without judgment, okay, what do you need to do to make that a 5? Technicalities, steps. What are the actual steps to make that a 5? So it's very simple. It's not easy. So don't expect it to be easy and then be disappointed when it's not. Expect it to be a wild adventure and then very grateful if it's easy. So
Correct. But the key
that's
here is being consistent.
mhm.
The key here is being consistent. Get to the zero. Work your way up to that neutral place consistently. Then work your way up to a positive place consistently. And
Mhm.
if this positive replacement for this negative habit doesn't work for you, you don't go all the way back over here. You simply just go back to neutral. Neutral is not a, I don't know how I can explain this enough. Neutral is not an awful place to be. It's okay to be neutral. And a lot of people cannot stay on neutral because we feel like we always got to be doing something. We feel like we always got to be moving and shaking and moving forward and doing this and growing and this and that. Stop it. Simply just
Yeah.
stop it. It's okay to be in a neutral place because you're not in a negative place. It's
Neutral
okay.
is the best self-awareness zone you can be in, because when
Correct.
you start on the positive, then you're after stuff's happening. You're like it's neutrals where you can best analyze it, because you can see the negative over there, you can see the positive over there. Okay, what's best for me? So
But
it doesn't
we
matter
don't want to stay at neutral forever though. Let me
no.
make sure that
Yeah,
let's
thank
make
you.
that clear. We're not saying stay at neutral forever. We're just saying I'd rather you be at neutral than go all the way to negative.
Yeah,
And if you can't get to positive, it's okay to be at neutral, but you always gotta work to get over here to the positive. And if you
yeah.
fail, go back to neutral. Don't go all the way back over here. And if
Hmm.
you do, just visit the negative and then get back to neutral.
Yeah,
Let's see the
yeah,
comment.
you're just catching your breath.
Kendall says removing the wind the we removing the weeds of a negative and planting the seeds of a desired habit.
Yes,
Yes.
I love that.
reframe your rule for what neutral means. That's
Ooh,
exactly it.
that's a good one. Hmm.
That's yes, reframe your rule of what neutral means. And that's one of the big issues that I see happening a lot is that we think that we're being lazy when we're actually being neutral. We think that we're not making progress when we're just being neutral. Fill in the blank. I could go on and on and on and
Yeah.
on about that. But just because you're not making progress in the right direction, as long as you're not making progress in the wrong direction, it's okay. And
Yeah.
again, but don't live here. Just don't
Just
live here forever.
catch your breath, then ask yourself, what do I need to do to get to one? What do I need
Boom,
to do to get to two? So it's just
boom.
asking yourself better questions. We've done a whole nother talk on that. We go eight
Yes,
hours on that. We can't
and
get started on that. We're not allowed.
and that's the key to reframing. Like Shane Allison has brought up reframing, and we bring up reframing on this live podcast every once in a while. But that's the number one question. That's the number one. That's the first step to reframing. Ask yourself better
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah.
Because the minute that you can ask yourself a better question, that's the minute that that reframe starts.
Yeah.
And if you ask
I
yourself a shitty question, guess where you go?
straight back to negative.
Straight back to
Yes.
negative.
And when you okay, so I just want to throw out a few while we're talking about reframing. So don't use the word try. It I shouldn't have said don't coming up, but the word try implies failure before you begin. So you don't want to use that with yourself, and you don't want to use that talking to other people, or just be honest. I'm not really going to give it a go, but I'll consider it or something. But don't use the word try. Don't on the words like don't and shouldn't and wouldn't, and those are negative connotations. So when you use that verbiage like I don't want to be broke, okay, well you're still focusing on being broke. You're not focusing on abundance and you know prosperity or opportunity around you, or you're not even looking up. You're just so that's where it automatically puts you in the negative zone if you use the words like it shouldn't be like this, or I would never do that, or don't do this, or those are just expectation words on the negative side of duality. So just let it go. But your self-talk, your words, be impeccable with your word, rule number one of the four agreements. So that is self-talk, that is talk to others, that is your promises, that's your promises to yourself. So
Yes.
very important.
All right, Courtney. We're going long here, but we got a question that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Kendall Mason says, how do you find ways to enjoy the process of moving from where you are to where you want to be?
That's a wonderful phrase question. First of all, I would say, even if you just journaled on that, but just sitting there and meditating on it, journaling on it, but asking, what would this look like if it were easy? What would this look like if it were fun? What would this look like if it came natural to me? You just ask yourself those better questions, and you're going to give yourself the best advice over anyone else for what your true purpose is. I don't know what your dreams are, but that's a fact. So I think that's a great question right there. But I'm throw it back to Ricardo. So that's what I would do.
So thank you, Courtney. Now let me go to the extreme other side.
Yeah.
It's gonna suck. It's gonna suck. It's not gonna be fun. You gotta do the work, man. You gotta do the work. Check out this book if you haven't done so. It's Relentless by Tim Grover. He talks a lot about Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. He's trained a lot of the major athletes in the world, championship championship caliber athletes. Michael Jordan is the one that he references, and Kobe, LeBron James, and all these other people in this particular book. But it's gonna suck. The workouts. If you're an NBA player, Michael Jordan, and you were working to get that championship ring, it's gonna suck, man. That training 8 hours a day, working out, it's gonna suck. And that's okay. Oh, see, look at that. It's a great
Yeah.
book.
There you go.
Well, you know what, dude? Read it a fifth time.
Yeah. And I do want to point out, I asked that not to, anyway, I'm not always like sent up, but it's like when something sucks, ask yourself, like, okay, what would make this better? What would, so that
Correct.
exactly when to be relentless is when it sucks.
Correct.
That's when you look for the enjoyment. I know it
Correct.
sounds like an oxymoron, but try it.
Correct. And I think that's one of the big keys is that we expect change not to suck. We expect change to be easy. We expect it not to hurt. We expect it to be pleasant, enjoyable, and all this other stuff. But here's the thing. While we may not be able to get the suck to a total enjoyment, we can get it to suck less.
Yeah.
So for me personally, when I'm working out, I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. I've tried to reframe it to a pleasurable thing, but the best I can do in my situation is to make it suck less. So how can I make it suck less? And that gets me through it. I'm able to push through if I can get it to be less sucky. And then, like Shen says, then I celebrate my victory and I feel good that I got
Yeah.
it done.
Exactly.
But it does start with embracing the suck. That's a good Gary V right there. Gary
Yeah.
V talks a lot about embracing the suck.
Yeah. I think Jim Rohn's the one that talked about pick your hard. Pick your hard. It's going to be hard. It's either going to be a shitty life or a disciplined life. Which hard are you going to pick? That's it. So I love Jim Rohn.
And we go back to this.
Yes.
Shitty life or discipline.
And if you think of an X, like what is easy now doesn't typically pay off later. Like if that's the first row, okay, what's easy now at the bottom doesn't pay off later at the top. Or if you look at the other line, what's hard now often pays off. So we kind of live our life on this altered paradigm of, getting the easy now, but that we pay for it later. Pay interest rates, metaphor and not. We pay interest rates, and then, but if you embrace the hard now, if you save now energetically or whatever, if you embrace whatever up front and discipline yourself through the process, you get rewarded for that later, whether that's something actual or just a polished habit that helps you get what you want much faster in life. So there's just so much power in that.
There's a lot of power.
Yeah.
There's a lot of power
I get
here.
excited about that topic.
Great question, Kendall. Because
Yes.
that really, that's a big one for me. It's and I get that a lot. How do we enjoy the process, man? Courtney will say her stuff, and I totally agree with everything Courtney says. But then for me, it's like, dude, sometimes it's just not gonna be fun. It's just not gonna be fun, and that's it. But here's the thing, and then I think we'll close off with this.
Okay.
When you're able to push through the stuff that's not fun, that's a nice, savory victory.
Yes.
Definitely. When you have to work for it and push through and do the hard work, you savor that victory. Think about it. And my guy, Michael Jordan here. Hi, Michael. Hey, Ricardo. Hey, Courtney. Hi, Force for Growth Show. How's everybody doing?
Oh,
it's Jordan here.
Now I wish he has a little voice, but
if
Ricardo might.
If I had to work hard for my championship rings, I wouldn't have been the greatest of all time. If they came to me easy, I wouldn't have been the greatest. I had to work hard for these championships. I had to work hard to get to the caliber that I am, which made me the greatest, which made me appreciate it, and which made me enjoy it. Well, thank you, Michael. Straight from Michael Jordan.
Yes. Yeah. That's it, guys.
That's
it. You're getting prepped for exactly what you want. So embrace it. Whatever that means to you.
Yes. So let's see. Lori. Hi, Lori.
Hey.
It's like parenting. There's so much reward for the challenges. Kendall 100% agreed. Yes. And thank you so much for our special guest, Michael Jordan, for joining us for a couple of moments. We appreciate that.
Always love Michael.
And I think that's it, Courtney. I think we've talked about being consistent. We talked a lot about things, and I do appreciate these chats. I enjoy everyone tuning in. Thank you so much. Feel free to comment below and ask us more questions, and we'll be more than happy to address them on the next show. And we'll be back on Friday.
Yeah, sounds good. Everybody have a great day, and thank you for listening.
Yes, and remember to visit forceforgrowth.com to subscribe to the podcast and our YouTube channel to catch the replays.
Boop, boop.
Thanks so much, everybody. Bye, y'all.
Bye.